Hey kids, welcome to Unit 5 Lesson 10, Shifting a 2D Array exercise number 4. We have another choose your own adventure. Both C and D are very helpful for completing our final project in this unit. I'm going to go ahead and do D in this video. There is also a video for C. Let's go ahead and jump in and see what we have to do. A shifted image is an image with the pixel shifted over and or down. To get started, we got to get our image plus file. I already have mine here. We're going to write the method makeShift that shifts the pixel object in the image over by the value given for the parameter shift. Get the pixel object at the current location. Get the pixel object at the next location. We're going to set the color of the pixel object at the current location to the color of the pixel object at the next location. We have a hint here. Use the setColor and getColor methods in the pixel class to get the full color of the pixel object. I think this is going to be a pretty big hint here. We're going to instantiate a shifted image object and draw the image in the scene with no effects applied. Then we're going to add a pause after drawing the image. Then we're going to call our makeShift method and draw the image again. Then we're going to save our shifted image class to our backpack because we're going to need it for our next lesson. There's a little example here of the guitar getting shifted. Let's take a look at our code. In My Theater, we don't have too much here. We have a My Scene object from the Scene class, and then we're playing our scene. In Shifted Image, we're extending image plus. So that looks like we have access to all of the red, green, blue values in our pixels. We have a constructor. This is to create a shifted image with the right file, and a place to write our makeShift method. In Image Plus, this is the same Image Plus we've been working with all unit. This is helping us access and change our RGB values. Let's go ahead and get started. This lesson is very similar to our last one. And the neat thing we're going to do with this lesson is we're going to combine our getPixels class that we've been using to look through a 2D array in our image and then shift everything by one. If we get stuck, we can always look back at the last lesson or any of the last units that shifted any pixels at all. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing I need to do is I need to create an array to store these pixels. So from the pixel class, we need to create one. We've been calling it pixels. We'll stick with that name. And this is going to be equal to our getPixels method. Now we have to start our shift. We need our two loops, inner and outer. So let's do our outer. This is going to be our outer loop. And in this one, our row is going to be equal to 0. As long as row is less than the pixels dot length, we're going to keep going through our row. Now we need our inner loop. This is our inner loop. Let's give ourselves a little room to see. That line initializes a loop variable called count to 0, and then executes the loop body as long as count is less than the value of the shift parameter. In other words, the loop body will execute shift number of times, and during each iteration of the loop, the inner loop will shift the values in the row to the right by one position. This process is repeated shift number of times to achieve the desired shift for each row in the array. Overall, this line plays a key role in shifting the rows in this array by a specified number of positions to the right. We're going to name it count just like we did last lesson. as long as the count is less than our shift parameter that we are getting passed from above. We're going to keep going through our loop. Now that we're there, we have to store that information. Before, we've been doing ints or doubles or strings. We're in our pixel class, so we'll need a pixel data type. This is going to be the same temporary one, but this is going to be equal to whatever pixels we're at row. And we want to get the first element. It's the first to get overridden. So we're going to store our first element right there. Now we have to go through and actually start doing our moving. So let's do our next loop here. We'll call this our shift loop. And this will go through our column. So in column is equal to 0. As long as our column is less than the pixels length of whatever row, we're going to keep going through the columns. Now we have to do our swap. In order to do that, we need to figure out what the current pixel is and what the next pixel is. That means we need to create another variable from the pixel class because it has RGB value. So it's going to be called current. That'll be equal to the pixels at whatever row and column we're currently at. And we also need to get the next one. So we'll do another variable, pixel, and we'll call this next. This will be equal to the pixels at the row and column right next to it. So this is row, this is column plus 1. Now we just want to set the color for current to the next one. And that's our get and set methods. So current, we're going to set the color, and we're going to set that to whatever the next color is. We're not done yet. We still have to set that temporary variable to the end of our array. So after our shift, we want the pixels at whatever row, and we want to go to the end of our array, so pixels, and we'll say at row 0, length -1. We just want to now set the color to whatever that temp value we have up there. Well, that's it. Let's clean up our code. This is our end of class, end of method. We created our temporary array to store our pixels. We went through the array and we stored the pixel at the beginning. And we moved over 1. We got that value of both of them, and we just set the current to whatever the next color is. And at the end of the array, we set whatever was at the beginning to the end. We're not done. We still have to go over to My Theater. And down here, the first thing we have to do is instantiate a shifted image object. So that means shifted image, we'll call it my image, is equal to a new shifted image. And we have to pick out a picture. Let's see what we have to work with. We've been doing the games. Let's continue with that one. We'll go games.jpg. Now we have to draw our scene. So my scene, we're going to draw our image. And we want to get the my image we just created. We'll start it at 0, 0. And for the overall scale, we'll just get the width of our scene. Saw the spelling there. And we have to get the width. Now we're going to pause for a second. So my scene, and we'll do a pause for 0.5 seconds. Let's see if we just get an image to pop up without any errors before we run our makeShift method. Looks like we already have one. That should be a get. Doesn't look like we have anything else. Let's try again. We got our image to pop up. Well, let's run our shift method now. So we'll go my image, make shift, and we have to give it a parameter how far we want to shift it. 1 isn't going to be very noticeable. Let's do 100. Then we are going to draw our image again. Let's just copy that. We know it's spelled right. Now when I hit run, we should get our image to pop up. Let's actually make this a second here so it's not so fast. Then we should run our makeShift method, shifting everything over by 100. And then we're going to redraw our scene. Well, let's see if we're right. We're getting an out of bound error. Let's go back to our shifted image, see if we missed something. Oh, we did. This is the same error we had to debug, and we forgot about it. This should be -1. Again, we have to remember how we count versus how we index. Let's go ahead and clear our console, go back to my theater, and run our method again. And it shifted over by 100. Looks like our code's working pretty good. Key takeaway from this lesson is further reinforcing how we use the shifting method. Big thing to remember, just like when we're swapping, anytime we're overriding an element, we have to store it because we can only either display or store a variable. Once we override it, we lose it forever. More importantly, these are also the type of questions you might see on your FRQ exam at the end of the quarter. Asking you to move an element, reverse an element, shift an element are very popular questions. So understanding and memorizing how this 2D array works is important to being successful on the AP-CSA exam. Hopefully this video helped you understand shifting 2D arrays a little better. As always, kids, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.